The battlefield was supposed to be simple. At least, that's what the strategist council of the Zerati Empire had promised. Rows of metallic trenches, skies painted in burning orange, and the endless thunder of plasma artillery. That was the way of war. Order, precision, and inevitable victory. But then they arrived. Not as armies. Not as fleets. Not as the screaming legions the council had described in their war songs. They sent a single human. At first, we laughed. Humans were myths to us, half-whispered stories traded in the underhalls of academies and dismissed by scholars as exaggerations. The Terran ghosts, they were called. A species too strange to catalog, too contradictory to fit inside neat taxonomies. Fierce yet fragile, monstrous yet mortal. The council said they were weak, meat wrapped around bone, barely able to withstand gravity without machines. But then why had every empire that fought them collapsed? Why had their names survived when their fleets had not? We were about to learn. The human stepped onto the Zerati battlefield with no armor, no weapon, and no retinue. Just a ragged coat, torn at the edges, and a pair of eyes that seemed wrong. Too calm, too alive. Our battalion, 500 soldiers bred from iron wombs, skin plated with alloy, stared at this lone figure. Some laughed. Some jeered. Some were afraid to blink. I was among the last. Something about the way the air changed when the human walked unsettled me. The wind died. Even the booming of the artillery seemed to falter, as if the war itself was holding its breath. "Identify yourself," roared Commander Verth, raising a claw the size of a warhammer. His armor shone, red sigils blazing in defiance. The human tilted their head, not in fear, not in confusion, but as though they were studying us, like specimens in a glass cage. Then they smiled. That was all. No gunfire, no battle cry, no threat, just a smile that was too sharp, too knowing, as if they had already lived this moment 1,000 times before. Our entire line recoiled. The battlefield sensors went haywire. Heart rate spiked. Power armor registered inexplicable drops in temperature. One soldier vomited inside his respirator. Another dropped his plasma lance and began sobbing, whispering something about predators. The human hadn't moved an inch. And yet, we broke formation. 500 strong, trained killers, engineered for discipline. And still we staggered back like prey animals, scenting a hunter in the tall grass. Rumors spread faster than plasma fire. Humans release pheromones. They infect your thoughts. They don't die the way we do. I knew none of that could be verified, but still, I felt it too. My carapace rattled in ways no weapon had ever made it rattle. My 3 hearts hammered against their chambers, urging me to run. What kind of creature could do this without lifting a finger? The human finally spoke. Their voice was soft, almost gentle, but it carried across the entire battlefield, resonating through the translators in our helmets. "You've already lost. Nothing more." Those 3 words slashed through us deeper than any blade. We had trained against shock grenades, psychic assaults, even neural disruptors, but nothing prepared us for words so certain. Not a boast, not arrogance, just inevitability. The commander snarled, desperate to reassert control. "Fire," he roared. 500 barrels glowed, plasma charging. The human didn't flinch, didn't move, didn't care. Our weapons should have erased them. A single volley could have slagged an armored transport. Yet in that heartbeat before we fired, hesitation spread like infection. What if the human was right? What if firing was exactly what they wanted? One soldier's weapon fizzled. Another aimed into the dirt. I tried to squeeze my trigger, but my claws shook violently. The targeting reticle refused to lock, as though the sensors themselves rejected the command. The commander roared again, but his voice broke, just slightly. Enough for all of us to hear the crack of fear. And still, the human smiled. That was the moment I realized. This wasn't about weapons. It never had been. Humans didn't need to fight to win. They only needed us to believe we couldn't. The battle never truly began that day, because without firing a shot, the human had already shattered us. The silence after those words, "You've already lost," was worse than any bombardment. The battlefield wasn't silent by nature. War never was. Plasma fire, distant thuds of kinetic artillery, the screaming of the dying. All of it was the language of our empire. But in that moment sound died, as if the human's presence erased it, forced reality to hold its tongue. I could hear my own breathing rasp inside my helmet. My claws trembled against the trigger of my rifle, the charged core humming with barely restrained destruction. I knew one squeeze would fire a bolt of plasma hotter than the core of our suns, but I also knew, with certainty I couldn't explain, that it wouldn't matter. The human would still be standing. Do not falter. Commander Vertha's voice cracked across comms, artificially amplified, but the strain in it was unmistakable. One being cannot stand against the Zerati. Fire, damn you. And yet nobody did. One by one, barrels dipped. Sensors flickered red. Some soldiers tore off helmets as if suffocating. Others whispered frantically in their own tongues, curses, prayers, or broken apologies. The human just watched. They didn't advance. They didn't posture. They simply stood there, hands in the pockets of that ragged coat, eyes calm. And yet, the entire battlefield moved around them as if they were a gravitational anomaly. The closer anyone inched, the faster they staggered back again. It was as if the human was not inside the battlefield. The battlefield was orbiting them. Whispers on the private comms spread like contagion. This is wrong. I can't aim at it. I saw it look at me. It knows me. Commander, please, this isn't war. This is execution. I wanted to dismiss them as weakness. Zerati soldiers were bred for perfection. No fear, no hesitation, no cracks. But I felt it too. Every time the human's gaze swept across our ranks, I felt naked beneath my armor, as if every secret, every sin, every fragile thread of my existence was laid bare. And still that smile. The commander roared again, charging forward with his own war spear. If none of you will act, then I will. He never finished, because the human moved. Not an attack, not a strike, just a step. One step forward, and our commander, pride of the Zerati, stumbled backward so violently he tripped, his armor crashing against the dirt. The sound was deafening in the silence. 500 soldiers watched their leader fall, without a blow struck. The human paused, head tilted, and simply whispered, "Interesting." That single word carried more weight than the impact of an orbital cannon. It was not anger, not mockery, just observation, like a scientist watching an insect twitch under glass. And somehow that was worse. Our ranks dissolved, not from plasma fire, not from blades or bombs, but from ourselves. Soldiers threw down weapons. Some bolted, sprinting into the ash fields, tearing at their own armor as if distance could protect them. Others simply froze, knees locking, eyes wide with terror, refusing to move even when screamed at. Me. I wanted to run too, but I couldn't. My legs betrayed me. Every instinct screamed predator, 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 and I was prey. I remembered old academy rumors then. Tales instructors dismissed as nonsense. The humans had once stared down war beasts 20 times their size, and the beasts starved themselves rather than approach. The humans carried death in their silence, that their presence was enough to unmake courage. The humans didn't need weapons. They were weapons. I had thought them fairy tales. But fairy tales don't make entire battalions collapse without a shot fired. The human walked forward, slow, unhurried. Each step felt like an eternity. Not a soldier dared resist. Even the commander, still scrambling to his feet, hesitated, his war spear shaking. The human stopped within arm's reach of him, then leaned in, just slightly. We couldn't hear what they whispered, but whatever it was, the commander screamed. Not a battle cry, not rage, pure terror. His war spear clattered uselessly to the ground as he stumbled away. 500 soldiers saw their leader reduced to prey in a single breath, and in that moment, something broke across our entire line. The human turned back to us, calm, collected, that same eerie smile. They didn't gloat, didn't boast, didn't need to. They simply looked at us all, one by one, as if marking prey for later. And though I knew it was impossible, I swore those eyes lingered on me longer than the rest. Panic spread like wildfire. Fall back. Retreat. They aren't mortal. It didn't matter what the commander screamed now. It didn't matter what orders came from the council. The Zerati line broke. The discipline of centuries dissolved. An army engineered for perfect obedience fled. All because of one human. By the time the dust settled, the humans still hadn't raised a weapon, still hadn't drawn blood. They simply stood in the middle of an abandoned battlefield, surrounded by discarded rifles and shattered courage. And I realized the truth that chilled me more than death itself. Humans didn't fight wars the way we understood them. They didn't conquer with numbers, or ships, or fire. They conquered with fear. And on that day I swore. We had lost. Long before the human ever arrived. The battlefield had been silent for hours. Not the kind of silence that followed victory, nor the hollow quiet of destruction. This was a silence steeped in dread. Thousands of alien soldiers sat scattered across the sun-bleached plain, their weapons discarded, their once proud banners trailing limply in the dust. The midday sun blazed mercilessly overhead, but no one complained of the heat. They were still shivering from what they had seen. Not a weapon fired, not a blow struck, not a scream of rage, nor a battle cry of fury. And yet, a single human had walked into their ranks and undone everything. The aftermath. The commander of the 4th Legion, General Carthon, sat upon a fragment of shattered armor plating. His taloned hands, usually so steady, trembled as he tried to pour water into a metal cup. The liquid splashed across his knees. Around him, junior officers avoided his gaze. In their culture, fear in a commander was unthinkable. But today, no one dared judge. They had all felt it. The human's eyes. Every soldier present swore those eyes had met theirs directly, as if the lone creature could split itself into 1,000 forms, staring each alien down simultaneously. In those eyes there had been no rage, no overt malice, only an unnerving calm, the calm of something that had endured storms greater than war. Carthon pressed the cup against his lips, but the water did nothing to wash away the dryness in his throat. "Report," he croaked finally. One of his aides, voice shaking, responded. "Sir, there are no casualties. Not from them. All our injuries came from panic. Troops trampled each other. Machines overloaded, abandoned. Some refused to move altogether." Carthon clenched his jaw. And the human? No one answered, because no one knew. The human had simply walked away. Whispers spread. By the time the sun dipped low, entire divisions of the alien coalition refused to return to formation. Hardened warriors, veterans of galactic sieges, sat in groups, whispering to each other like frightened recruits. "They don't kill. They don't need to kill." I swear its gaze pierced my armor. "They say humans survived worlds our terraforming failed on. Toxic air. Freezing winds. They thrived." Rumor fed rumor, swelling like a tide. The battlefield that morning had been a place of conquest. By evening, it was a shrine of myth. The human becomes a legend. On board the command ship orbiting above, high-ranking strategists convened. The hall, usually buzzing with sharp voices, now echoed with hesitant words. "They unsettle the very concept of war," an admiral muttered. "No, they unsettle us," corrected another. Projectors flickered, replaying surveillance feeds. The footage was almost absurd. One unarmed human, standing alone amidst an army, as thousands of trained warriors broke like glass around them. No weapon discharge, no biological toxins, no psionics, nothing explainable. Perhaps it was a trick, one commander suggested weakly. "Perhaps," another countered. "But do you see the faces of our soldiers? You cannot fabricate that kind of fear." They froze the frame on the human's expression, relaxed posture, faint smile. That smile, the council agreed silently, would haunt them all until their final breaths. Cultural reverberations. Weeks later, across alien colonies, songs began to circulate. Not songs of hatred for humans, not propaganda, but laments. Children in alien schools whispered bedtime horrors. "If you disobey, the human will come. It doesn't shout. It just looks." Philosophers debated endlessly. Was the human's presence some evolutionary intimidation, or was it a truth larger than biology, that humans embodied something deeper? Religions sprouted interpretations. Some declared humans demons born from cosmic suffering. Others declared them saints, unbreakable guardians who endured in silence. Either way, none saw them as ordinary anymore. The battlefield is a pilgrimage. Months later, that same plain under the wide sky became forbidden ground. No commander wished to revisit it, but soldiers, young ones who hadn't been there, made secret pilgrimages. They would step onto the soil, look around nervously, then claim they too had felt it, the lingering weight of human presence. A battlefield without a battle had become a holy site, where one creature had bent an army without lifting a hand. Back in the human encampment, what no alien knew, the human who had stood there was no warrior, no general. He had been a linguist attached to a diplomatic envoy, separated from his unit when the alien army advanced. He had wandered into the battlefield not with strategy, but confusion, his only weapon a notebook full of sketches of alien runes. His calm expression had been nothing but quiet exhaustion. Yet to the aliens, that exhaustion looked like the poise of a predator who had already decided the outcome. The human returned to his camp bewildered, asking, "Why did they all run?" His commanders never answered, because they themselves could not believe it. Aliens' psychological collapse. Back on their homeworlds, alien veterans struggled. Some refused to sleep, haunted by dreams of the human standing silently among them. Others resigned their commissions entirely, saying, "We have faced every terror across the stars. Nothing has broken us, except them." Even the strongest societies cracked. Empires debated withdrawing entirely from the human conflict, not because of defeat in numbers, but because of defeat in spirit. What weapon could they build against a gaze? What offense could they raise against a smile? The turning point. And so, humans, without firing a single shot, rewrote the concept of war across the galaxy. For centuries, wars had been measured in ships destroyed, soldiers lost, cities burned. But now, the greatest battlefield victory was remembered not for bloodshed but for silence. The aliens would never forget, not because of destruction, but because of a single unarmed human who taught them all what fear truly meant. And in the deep records of alien archives, the event was inscribed with a single title: "The Day War Ended Without War." The battlefield echoes across the stars. The plain where it happened became more than just a scar of history. It became a seed, one that grew in whispers across star systems. Soldiers returning home refused medals, refused honors. When asked why, they simply answered, "I was there. I saw it." The pronoun had soon replaced the word human in countless alien dialects. It was not a species anymore. It was a force, a phenomenon, something you didn't name casually. Alien academies rewrite their lessons. On planets light years away, alien academies of war, places of proud tradition, began rewriting their curricula. Previously, they studied flanking maneuvers, siegecraft, orbital bombardments. Now a new subject was added: the human factor. Professors, once confident strategists, spoke with hesitation. "You cannot measure them by weapons or numbers," one said to a class of young cadets. "You cannot anticipate their response," added another. Cadets leaned forward wide-eyed. Some disbelieved. Others swallowed hard, sensing their teacher's fear was not fabricated. Simulations of human encounters became mandatory. Entire holotheaters projected the image of one standing figure, motionless, calm, and even artificial recreations caused cadets' hearts to race. One alien instructor, after a training drill, whispered privately to his colleagues, "Every time I see their eyes on screen, I feel as though I am prey again, as though I have never truly been a predator." Alien villages feel the shock. Even small rural villages across alien territories felt the aftershocks. Farmers working under alien suns told their children to avoid the forests at night. "Why?" the children asked innocently. "Because," the parents answered, "that's where the humans could be." No actual human had ever set foot there. Yet their legend slithered into folklore as smoothly as starlight into darkness. Alien storytellers began their tales with, "Once, when the sky itself trembled, a human came." Children shrieked, begged for more, then wrapped themselves tighter in blankets. Fear and fascination mixed inseparably. Alien homes and families change. In alien homes, conversations shifted. Spouses debated moving farther from border systems. Parents argued about enlisting their young ones in the military. One elder told his grandchildren, "I have seen predators on 1,000 worlds. I have seen storms steer continents. But never, never have I seen anything as terrifying as something that does nothing and still wins." The younger ones listened silently. They realized in that moment that their species, proud and mighty, had finally met a wall they could not climb. Alien hotels and social hubs. Even in alien hotels, places where weary travelers sought comfort, the human myth became currency. Travelers whispered to one another at late-night tables, "I heard they don't sleep like us." They close their eyes, but their minds wander battles, planning 10 moves ahead. "I heard they can drink poison and live." I heard one stood before an army, and the army ran. Each tale twisted into exaggeration. Each exaggeration fed the legend. Soon, even those who had never seen a human swore they had, just to taste the weight of the myth. Alien laboratories struggled to understand. Back in the great alien labs, scientists worked tirelessly. They dissected biological samples of humans, studied endurance, cataloged anomalies. "They are fragile," said one researcher, tapping a bone sample. "Yet they are unbroken," whispered another, staring at brainwave data. Charts proved humans should not inspire such dread. And yet, every alien who had faced one confirmed otherwise. Science faltered. Fear triumphed. Alien liberty, public fear made law. In alien parliaments, fear became law. Legislators rose in chambers, shouting, "We must ban direct human contact. We must evacuate colonies near their sectors. We must acknowledge that to face them is to unravel ourselves." Some wanted treaties. Others wanted distance. But none wanted war anymore. Because war was no longer war. It was suicide by silence. The human perspective, unaware giants. Meanwhile, humans went on with their lives. Colonists planted crops, built shelters, raised children. Soldiers repaired ships, cleaned rifles, drilled half-heartedly. They never knew what kind of fear their existence radiated. They only thought the aliens were strange for retreating so suddenly. "Guess they got bored," joked one colonist. "Guess we scared them off," said another, laughing. They didn't realize their laughter alone was enough to make distant alien commanders shiver. The return of the witness. The linguist, the human who had walked onto the battlefield by accident, was quietly reassigned, his report filed under diplomatic incident. He never understood the gravity of what had happened. To him, it was an awkward day. He had gotten lost, wandered into the wrong crowd, and been stared at. To the galaxy, it was apocalypse. Alien religion shifts forever. Within decades, alien temples carried carvings of human silhouettes. Not in worship, but in warning. Priests chanted about the day without war. Some sects proclaimed, "The humans are proof of the universe's cruelty." Others declared, "The humans are proof of the universe's balance." Either way, the human was no longer just flesh and blood. They were an eternal concept, something beyond. The final archive. Generations later, a council of alien historians assembled to decide how to mark the infamous battle. After long debate, they wrote into their archives, "It was the day our weapons meant nothing. It was the day our courage cracked. It was the day a human stood still. And we all fled." And beside it, etched in every alien script, on alien battlefields, humans terrified without firing a shot.